A couple of weeks ago I put out that video titled 9 Things I'd Still Like to See in Genshin Impact. And while I did put the things in there that I mostly thought of right off the bat, there are still other things I would like to see in this game. And so I was discussing the game with a friend of mine, shout out, his name is @gun099, and when we were discussing it, we came up with even more things. Here we go. Here's 9 more things I'd like to see put into Genshin Impact. I'm not milking this topic or anything, it's really just there's that many things that can be put into the game. As before though, I don't want to waste too much time, so I'm gonna go ahead and get right into it. All that said, intro out the way, here's 9 more things I'd like to see in Genshin Impact. I'm going to make these points a little quicker than I did in the original video, mostly because there's less elaborating to do on these points. So yeah, all said, let's go. At number 1, Reserve Resin Overflow. Now look, they have this in Star Rail, and that's one thing, okay, they had it there, okay, and it's kind of hard to ignore that, but now Zenless Zone Zero is out, and it has that too? Come on, dude. Dude. I don't understand how Genshin doesn't have this yet, when it's like, it's so common, and they even know that it's common because they're putting it into their other games. Condensed resin is cool and all, and I know that that's kind of like supposed to be a way to reserve your resin, but it's not the same. One, you have to do that manually, whereas reserve resin just does it on its own, like you don't have to be on the game to do it, it's automatic. And also, reserve resin, you can use it on anything. Like your reserve Trailblaze points in Star Rail, you can use it on a boss, or basically whatever you want, but condensed resin in Genshin, it can't be used on everything. It's like domains only. You can't use it on a world boss or weekly boss or anything. But there is a positive side to condensed resin, and that's the fact that you actually exchange it at a 1-to-1 ratio, whereas overflow resin would likely be at a reduced rate. But you know what I say to that? Just keep both. Just keep condensed resin and add reserve resin. Like, do both. There's no reason you can't do both. And it would just feel so much better for the game. Like later this month, I'm probably going to be gone for a week, and I'm not going to be able to play the game, so I'm not going to be able to use my points during the week. And just knowing in the back of my mind that at least it's building up something, that would make it not so bad. And coming up at number 2, removal of time-gated domain restrictions. What I mean by this is, for the talent book domains and weapon material domains, get rid of the daily rotations and just let you farm what you want when you want. And as well, for the weekly bosses, let us farm a particular boss more than once per week. I know I bring up Star Rail a lot, but it's valid in my opinion. That game is made by the same company, and yeah, you can say that it's different development teams, whatever. But it's the same company, dude. Like, this stuff can come from top down. Point being, when I started Star Rail and realized that this was how the weeklies are there, and realized that there's no daily rotation, I almost lost my mind. Especially because it's not like you don't have to still farm. Dude, it's still a lot. You still have to farm a lot in that game. If the company is worried about that, then they shouldn't be. I've yet to have a day in Star Rail where I didn't use my Trailblaze points on something. So yeah, letting us use it every day as we wish isn't gonna hurt anything. Points I've made as far back as my Some Assembly Required video, and I'll keep echoing this point from here to the future. Just let us play the game, Hoyoverse. This is obviously a relic from the past, and maybe it did have some purpose before, but nowadays, come on. I mean, we're all just trying to play the game at this point. Number 3. Constellation toggles. Yep, Bennett. It's Bennett. Yeah, he's the reason. Honestly, at this point in the game, you could just C6 your Bennett. But I understand those that haven't done that, because I mean, I'm one of them. But there's always that feeling in the back of your mind. What if I want to use my Bennett in a specific scenario one day? Well, you know what would fix that? Just being able to turn off his 6th constellation altogether. Boom, there you go, no more worries. It is funny that we still think about this even today, considering the fact that as early as the 2nd year of the game, with characters like Raiden Shogun and Ayato, they've made it where their damage types can't even be overridden. Like it's specifically written into their kits. Just so you know, don't worry about your Bennett. Go ahead, you can C6 your Bennett. And yet we still don't do it. But I mean, it's because you just never know, right? But I mean, all this talk about Bennett, there are other reasons you may want to undo your constellations temporarily. I mean, for one, maybe you just want to see the difference in power between your constellations. Maybe you want to do a no constellation Abyss run just for the bragging rights. Or maybe you're some content creator or YouTuber or something and you want to do a constellation showcase. As it is now, you'd have to get all the footage you want while you're at a low constellation, because when you level it up, that's it. If you forgot to get footage of a very important part, you're screwed. Being able to toggle would just fix all that. And young Benny Boy could stop holding our accounts hostage. Number 4. Co-op Abyss. This is one I actually saw in the comment section of my other video. But yeah, I agreed after I saw it. A co-op Abyss would be pretty neat. I don't know that I would want it to be mandatory in order to get points, because some people just don't want to do co-op, right? But as an option, I do believe it should be there for those who want to do it. It's just, I mean, why not, you know? Now, again, it shouldn't offer anything more than what the singular Abyss does, as far as rewards go, I mean. So your co-op Abyss and regular Abyss rewards should come from the same pool. But as I said with the weekly boss and daily rotation things on the domain, at this point in the game, why not, dude? Why not? I mean, come on, we're all just playing it now. And I have a couple of friends who are not day one players in the game like me, and it'll be a while before they're ready to take on the Abyss to its most extreme. As a matter of fact, it might be a little too daunting for them, and maybe it's dispiriting, I don't know. But I think it would be pretty neat if I could team up with them and we just tackle it together, and I help them through it. That would be kind of fun. I wouldn't need any extra rewards, like I said, I mean I can do it on my own. But helping out a buddy and getting in there, crashing it together, there's nothing wrong with that. That sounds pretty neat. They could even balance it so that if 2 people go in together, then it's slightly harder. But whatever, I'd be down with that. That'd be cool. Rather than either of my friends coming to me asking me to play so that they can beat the Abyss, I'd probably be going to them asking them to play just so I can have the extra challenge. Co-op Abyss. Would love to see it. Number 5. Shield bar and buff and debuff display timers. Basically, more information for the added effects during the fights. To this day, I've never gotten a good idea of just how much damage a Zhongli shield blocks, because there's nothing numerical to go by. Same goes to Layla or any other character. I'm just sitting there like, is my shield about to break? Is it about to break now? Yeah, I don't know, it would just be nice to know how much it's blocking and how much is left. And the same thing goes for buff and debuff timers. I know when I'm buffed, because you get those little orange arrows floating around your character pointing upwards. But I don't know how long it's lasting. And being able to see that would be fantastic for things like timing certain abilities or knowing when to switch off to another character, or knowing when to reapply the buff, or yeah, it would just help with mastering your rotations in general, because you'd be able to see what's going on better. And once again, I really don't want to make this comparison every time, but I mean, you can see it in Honkai Star Rail, which I'm sure some people would say, well, yeah, that's turn-based, so you really need to see your numbers and everything, right? But Genshin is it's action. It's a game with numbers and timings too. Yeah, not getting away with that excuse. You could even go so far as to say enemies could have a debuff clock on them as well. That way you know how long you have to unleash your full combo. All in all, for those who wouldn't pay any attention to these kinds of gauges and timers, it wouldn't hurt their experience at all. But for those who would, it would be a huge help. Number 6. A dummy zone. Our old boy Masanori in Inazuma, he's tired, man. This dude's tired. He's been whooped upon for like 3 years. Yeah, a dummy zone or a dummy playground, whatever you want to call it, would be fantastic for testing teams, combos, buffs, you name it. I imagine it as this like empty field, almost similar to your teapot, but you can select like any enemy from the game from a list and you can plant it in the middle of the field. Even bosses like the Regisvines or the Hypostases. And you can set up their HP, you can make them invincible if you want to, and you can modify their behavior like attacking or just sitting there still so that you can test your team. This would be an incredible training tool for getting your rotations down, and it will let you get a good idea of just how much damage you're doing without all the distraction of an actual battle happening. You could just focus on the numbers. Or, again, if you modify their behavior to attack you, you could use it for training. The next time that giant wee nut boss appears in the abyss, you'll be ready to take him down before he can disappear into the sand. I can just see lots of good uses for this, none of which are bad. People that love doing those damage showcases on YouTube? Yeah, that would be their dream. It would sure beat doing one of those super omega setups, only for Masanori to block it. Number 7. A normal weapon banner. Look, I didn't say everything on this list would have a shot at being real. It's just what I would like to see, right? But yeah, I'm really happy with the recent change to the fate points to where it went from 2 points down to 1 point. Because 2 points was just egregious. It's so much better now. And yet, it could still be better. I mean, I keep saying this, and I'm feeling bad for doing it over and over, but Star Rail, yeah, Star Rail, they're separate. The weapon banners are all separate, and there's no fate point, and you can just pull on the weapon you want. Now, this is one that does have some pros and cons. The thing about the fate points is, while they do expire, both of the current limited weapons are on the same banner, which means you can lose to another limited weapon. This is in comparison to Star Rail, where if you lose, you only lose to a standard weapon. Like, yeah, that's a difference. And so, there is kind of a pro to this fate point thing where both limited weapons are on the same banner, because I've lost and not really felt like I've lost before, you know what I mean? But still, with the fate point system, if you don't go for the weapon you really want after losing once, and then you let the banner expire, and then the next patch you want to go for a weapon, you could also fail to get the weapon then too. You could, theoretically, always lose to the weapon you don't want. I mean, mathematically, that's not gonna happen every time, but just saying theoretically that can happen. Whereas, if the weapons were on their own separate banners, then you just have a better chance of getting the weapon you want. Especially because in the single weapon systems of the other games, the limited weapon has a 75% chance of appearing, whereas the standard weapon only has a 25% chance of appearing. But here, in the fate point system, both weapons share that 75% chance, so it's really 37.5, 37.5, and 25. And so your chances of getting the weapon you want are slimmer. And if you don't make use of that fate point every time, you could theoretically just lose every time. This one is a matter of your mileage may vary. I mean, again, I can see pros and cons to both. But in the end, I think I would rather go with the 75-25. Being able to lose to another limited weapon sounds great and all, until it isn't. I have no need for a second Kokomi donut. Number 8. Reduced or disabled stamina consumption outside of combat. This is one that my friend had mentioned as well, and it's one that I've also seen others say over time in various places. And while it's something I never really considered, the more I think about it, yeah, this sounds pretty nice. Now, there may have to be some additional rules or restrictions about it. Certain things like cliff sides and lakes and bodies of water are there as boundaries that you are meant to navigate around because, you're a traveler, you're adventuring. And so I don't know that eliminating stamina for things like gliding, swimming, and climbing, I don't know if that would be the best idea, but I would happily take a reduction. And maybe they could make it to where as long as you do the normal option, such as normal climbing or normal swimming, then it doesn't take any stamina. It only takes stamina when you do the heavy option, such as hopping when you climb, or swimming fast. That would be fair. And now, you may realize that I haven't mentioned the most common use of stamina, which is just running. I believe that of all the things you use stamina to do, sprinting is most definitely the most negotiable for eliminating the use of stamina outside of combat. Climbing, swimming, and gliding might need some modified rules, but not sprinting. Nah, just get rid of it altogether. And it's important to emphasize, this is saying outside of combat. This isn't saying altogether. Stamina has a purpose in the game, but when you're not fighting, they could ease up on it a little bit. And at number 9, a BGM selector. Dude, we all know it. The music in this game is incredible stuff. But we all have our favorite tracks. Photon of Fluctuation is still one of my favorite tracks to this day. Being able to just set it as my preferred encounter music would be pretty cool. And the same goes with some of the town themes. Now, it would be a bit of a cultural aesthetic clash to be playing a Sumeru battle song in Liyue. So I understand if they make you have to set it by region, just for aesthetic coherency. But still, it would be nice to be able to do it, because I have favorite battle themes and town themes in each region. I would just set Sumeru City to Port Ormos, every time. And this is only talking about the open world. However, it would be nice to set this in other modes. Abyss, Imaginarium Theater, TCG. Does TCG have a music customizer? I don't think it does. I haven't played it in a while though. But you see my point. Being able to set the song by the floor in the Abyss would be really cool. Chamber 1, Photon of Fluctuation. Chamber 2, Swirls of the Stream. Chamber 3, Polomnia Omnia. Yep, that's my playlist, that's it. Would really love to be able to customize the music more in the game, because it's a treasure. It's really good. And there you have it. 9 more things I would really like to see in Genshin Impact. And yeah, this was supposed to be short, but it turned out to be pretty long still. Now there is a small short list of other things too, but I'm not gonna go too in-depth, just I'm gonna list them off. But being able to do some things from the menu rather than having to go to specific places on the map would be good. You know, things like cashing in your dailies, or changing the traveler's element, or crafting. All these things, if they could be done from your menu, that would be much better. A pull counter, so that you don't have to manually pull up your pull history every time and manually count to see where you are. I mean, it's nice to have the pull history to see your history, but when all you want to know is how close you are, yeah, having a count on the banner page, that's nice. and soft archived events. Now, I did say before in my last video that I would like replayable missions, so this kind of goes hand in hand, but I would say the same thing with events too. Something similar to HSR's conventional memoir, where you can play past events, and they wouldn't have to give you every limited reward, but having it archived there so that you can at least get some of the reward would be cool. Because I know in HSR, I've been able to play some of the past events that I missed, and yeah, I was able to get like jades and stuff from it. So I think having that there for some of the newer Genshin players would be pretty nice. Plus it would provide some context to some things. There's really just a lot of things that could be put in the game. Every time I think I've thought of it all, something else pops in my head. Or someone says something and I'm like, oh, that's a pretty good idea. Huh. This isn't fishing for complaints, not at all. I really do think these would be good ideas for the game. Heck, with enough brainstorming, I bet there's 9 more that could be thought of after this. But I'm not doing that. Nah, we're done. Or are we? As I said before in the part 1 video though, I'm sure they're going to continue improving the game in some capacity. It may be some things on the list, all of them, who knows. And one may say the wishful thinking is pointless and a waste of time, but I don't know. I mean, we had several other wishes get fulfilled recently. Took 20 billion years for them to do it, but they did it. So never lose heart. These things could be reality one day if recent times are any indicator. As for me though, I'm chilling for the most part. These aren't necessary things for me to continue the game. If that was the case, I would have been out ages ago, long before 5.x and Allen. But they'd feel nice, you know? Not necessary, but very appreciated. Going to go play some games though, it's the weekend, so I leave you with this wish list. As before, what do you think? Leave a comment and get some discussions going, I love reading it. And with that, I'm out once again. Peace. I think I've already thought of like 4 more things.